Well, welcome everybody. Tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show has a very special guest, and that is our buddy Bill Goodman from the National Weather Service office in Upton. All right. Who's playing with the audio?
No, forget about it. It's over. Don't worry about it.
Okay. Well, it's still on.
Turn my volume down.
Yes. He's still there. No, because I run a few seconds behind on YouTube when it pops up. There's no way I could control the volume until the stupid thing pops up, and more often than not, it pops up at full volume. So that's what happens.
Okay.
There's an open audio in here somewhere. I'm repeating.
All right.
Hang on. Joe, you sure you got the audio off?
I'm sure.
Wait.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm on two channels now.
It could be that if you have 3 people instead of the normal 2, that might be.
Hang on. Hold on.
Technology, isn't it? Technology.
Okay, let's see if this works. Okay, I'm only hearing it once. I'm hearing it once. I was repeating in my head here. This is not going to be good.
That's
psychedelic. So nobody else is hearing double audio.
Yes, I am.
I'm not hearing. I'm hearing everything the way it's supposed to be heard. Okay. All right. Well, as Joe mentioned, our guest tonight is Bill Goodman, who is one of the distinguished forecasters at the National Weather Service Forecast Office located in Upton, New York. Many people are still, it's been how many years now? 20 or 30 years that you guys have been out on Eastern Long Island, but people still think that when they hear of the National Weather Service, New York City, that you're still over at 30 Rockefeller Plaza. And that's long since. That's like 30 years in the past.
Yeah, that goes back to 1993 when the office moved out east.
Right.
Yeah, I always thought when I got here I'd be working at 30 Rock.
Well, there were a lot of forecasters who were at the National Weather Service in New York City for a good number of years, and when you guys decided you were going to make the switch from 30 Rock to out near Brookhaven, Long Island. For a lot of those forecasters, it was a very long drive, and it was suddenly a consideration of maybe it's time to pack it in and retire.
Retire.
That would have meant, for some, maybe a 50, a 70, 100-mile wide, mile one-way journey out to the island of Long.
Yeah, exactly. Well, most people moved close to the office. There were a couple of holdouts there. I know there was one. When I first got here, there was one guy who was coming all the way in from the Bronx. He retired shortly after I got there. Now it's I think there's just 1 or 2 left from the old office, and they're all close by.
Are you guys? Are you able to hear me?
Close by because, I did it for a short time. Joe did it for a much longer time than I did, making a journey in excess of, let's say, 130 or 140 miles. Each day. I mean, that could wear you out very quickly.
Yeah, it was 65 miles each day for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's amazing. Are we all back to?
I think so. I don't know what I did. I muted myself, and now I unmuted myself, and it seems to be working. You can hear me, correct?
I could hear you.
Everything sounds great.
Yeah, that double audio. That real sort of strange things happen on Zoom video, from what I understand, every once in a while. So, but whatever it was, I did something. I fixed it. So let's look ahead. I actually, Bill, I brought up. I'm going to bring up. We could do the tropics first.
Okay.
I kind of think it's pretty interesting. Now, you said to me, you messaged me today. You've got your idea of what you think June is going to be like for our neck of the woods, which is basically, say, eastern PA to southern New England. That zone in there maybe goes down as far south as, say, northern Delaware and up as far north as past Joe's house. Say up to about Poughkeepsie. Uh, so,
Fair enough. Fair
what
enough.
do you what are your thoughts?
Well, I think I think probably through the first week or week and a half of June, probably see
Hold
more.
on, hold on. If that's Mr. Softy,
Yeah,
you
it is.
okay, go on. I just want to
All right.
acknowledge, if it was the good humor
I'm
man, I'd
outside.
ask. If it was the good humor man, I'd ask you to get me a popsicle. But
Yeah,
go
I'm
ahead.
outside. Yeah, we tell the time by when Mr. Softy comes
Okay, go
by.
on.
That's usually, yeah.
Go ahead.
He's making his own summer forecast there. I think probably more of the same, at least through the early part of June, where we get these Canadian air masses and like we have right now, and a little bit cooler than normal. Nothing really below normal, but no warmth either. Mid month, it looked like not just the Euro, but even the CFS, the GFS long range ensemble had has this big signal for some kind of tropical system to move into the Gulf of Mexico. And what it does after that is it may play into what happens as we get later into the month. What I'm seeing right now, I'm kind of leaning toward what the European has it staying just to our south, which means might have more of the same, or maybe gradually warm up. You figure all these air masses coming at us from the plains or Canada
Right.
can't stay cool forever.
Now, by mid-month, you're talking. I mean, you're talking about mid-June, as opposed
Yeah.
to the GFS, which has been now for well over a week, telegraphing something coming out. This sort of big gyre that develops over Central America later this week and this weekend, and actually there is disturbed weather on the Pacific side. I'm going to bring it up on the satellite. I pulled up a satellite picture of it, and the Hurricane Center. Now, if I can find the darn picture, what did I do with it? Oh, it's here somewhere. Oh, here we go. So, you got all this disturbed weather. That's now we're on the Pacific side, and the Hurricane Center is actually has a 70% probability of this developing into a tropical depression or a tropical storm in the next 5 days. The upper flow I noticed is it's very weak and light southerly up in this region and going up through Central America and into the Gulf of Mexico. So it seems logical that this would probably drift northward. What I'm trying to figure out is if you look at the GFS. That it's great having Mr. Softy in the background while we're talking all these atmospheric physics over here. So,
Exactly.
looking at the GFS, which is now taking its sweet time loading up, but you do have run it from the beginning, so it does develop. I mean, it starts to develop a low after 60 hours. On the Pacific side, actually wraps it up pretty well. The European takes it more west-northwestward into Mexico and kind of loses it, whereas the GFS wants to lift it straight north, and it just has this, this gigantic spiral. You look at the structure of what it has as far as the precip is concerned. I mean, it looks like this gigantic spiral with very low pressures in the Caribbean and in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico, and it wants to develop some kind of low there. And now we're up to June 4th, and this is on the 210 hour. So after this point, we've seen model runs kind of go. Some of them take it to the way left, some of them take it way right, some of them took it straight up, some of them didn't do anything with it at all. I wonder whenever I see an upper air like we have, Bill, where you've got, higher than normal pressures well up to the north of the Gulf of Mexico, so that you got this almost vast wasteland of low pressure, lower than normal pressures to the south, that oftentimes you do get something that tries to develop in that scheme.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I guess going beyond that, just sort of playing the model bias game. The GFS often goes too far to the right. European is either on or a little bit too far to the left. So that's what, as we get into the I mean, granted, we're talking a couple of weeks away. I tend to lean.
Yeah, we're just purely speculation here. We're just speculating off the top of our heads.
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing here that's imminent. The other thing I noticed, I got the sea surface temperatures, and across the Pacific and in the Atlantic Basin. You have
Mhm.
a very what looks to me like, you almost got a La Nina going here. You have a long stretch of below normal temperatures from the coast of South America straight across the equator past Hawaii. It goes about three-quarters of the way across, and it's been growing on a weekly basis here. So the La Nina seems to be in play, and at the same time, interestingly enough, all across the tropical and subtropical Atlantic in general, showing either near or above normal sea surface temperatures at the
Mhm.
moment. So at least these pieces seem to argue that these forecasts that we're seeing with regards to an active season in the Atlantic Basin, the La Nina signature certainly would suggest that.
Yeah, I agree with that, Joe. I think haven't seen any forecast that disagrees with it. I've been trying to poke a hole in it and haven't been able to yet.
What uh, I saw somebody mention these upper lows that we've been seeing lately. They drop down southward, and sometimes they park themselves off the South Atlantic coast.
Hmm.
Is the person seemed to was arguing, and I would disagree. It's oftentimes you get these upper lows when they drop down into the subtropics. If they hang around and warm up enough, you could wind up getting a tropical system coming out of them. But um, this tendency for this sort of blockiness that we have, I would think that would just have a very short-term impact.
Yeah. I mean, most of those don't tend to be very strong. I mean, there are exceptions. I think of Hurricane Diana back in 1984. Most tend to be on the weaker side. But yeah, you can't rule those out. Sometimes an upper low is just an upper low. So not everything that drops down is necessarily going to develop that way. I guess depends how cold the upper levels are when it starts off. How much warming has to take place before it can really become a tropical type of system.
Jump in, Rayo.
And Hurricane Diana, that you just mentioned, Bill, jumps out at me because I was on my honeymoon. I was on a cruise to Bermuda when Hurricane Diana came along in early September 1984. And I remember uh, on they did have TV on this particular ship that we were on, and we were just pulling out from Bermuda, and I'm seeing this this thing off of the Mid Atlantic near the Hatteras area, and I'm saying to myself, "Oh my God, did we bring Dramamine for the trip back?" Uh,
That's
thankfully, it did not have too much of an impact, or not a tremendous impact on us. But I do remember that particular hurricane very well. I remember it was just on the day before it was the week after we were married. The second week is when we took the cruise to Bermuda, and I remember that it was just beginning to boil up or bubble up off the southeast coast. And I said, this doesn't look too good. And within a few days, there was the classic textbook spiral structure off near Hatteras. And like I said, I'm happy it did not have a tremendous impact. But if any of you have ever been out at sea, when you had not just a hurricane or a tropical system, but anything, any kind of major coastal disturbance. Um, it's even with the modern technology of today, where you have these stabilizers on board some of the really big ships, it doesn't matter. You get a big swell, so to speak, and that ship's going to rock back and forth or up and down, and you better have the Dramamine close at hand.
I'm
oh
by
yeah.
the way, I'm monitoring. I'm monitoring the chat board. So you folks got any questions? Put them up there while we got Bill on. What did All right, so I got to ask you this, Bill,
Okay.
because you know, because I got you here, and I don't know when I'm going to get you back here, but inquiring minds want to know, and I'm going to break my own rule because it's only May. But any ideas with your thoughts for the upcoming winter? I almost hate
Are
to
you
ask him.
crazy?
He's
Are
here.
you
I
nuts?
got, but he's, I've been trying to get him for months.
Didn't we just
It took a
didn't that just end
pandemic.
a couple weeks ago?
I mean, yeah, I know. We took a pandemic to get this man to get free, so now he's free for tonight.
Can I just cut in? No, but can I just cut in here? And
Yes.
maybe Bill is not aware of this. Bill, I was doing like a numerical. I like to do statistical studies and surveys, and we only had like 4 or 5 other winters. I think 4, where we had literally a paucity of snow at Central Park, less than 5 inches total accumulation for the winter season. And you can look this up. You can go on the on your own website over there at NWS Upton and look back on the climate thing. In all of those years that we did have less than 5 inches of snow, the very next winter and snowfall came roaring back with something like 40 or more inches of snow at Central Park. So what I've been telling people, and I'm not trying to, get you to, change whatever opinion you have or anything, but what I've been telling people when they ask what's going to be like for next winter, I just simply say, well, if the numbers are correct, then next winter will more than make up for what we didn't get this winter
Right.
season.
Past performance is no guarantee of future results, but you know what? It's the only thing we got to look at. So,
Exactly.
Yeah, I'll hang my hat on that right now. I guess I always think back. I think back to 76, 77 because we had snow so late that year too, and that ended up being a hot summer. And yeah, winter 77, 78. That was one for the ages. So maybe there's something to that.
All right, so good. We got off. Let's get off the snow conversation. Let's get back to reality. So David Schwartz on the chat board asked, we've got this weak low and trough that's over Florida and moving offshore. He wants to know whether that has a chance to develop into something before it moves into North Carolina, which it's south of North Carolina, which it's going to do probably at this time tomorrow.
Guess you can't rule it out. I mean, the Hurricane Center is slowly increasing the odds. I just don't know if it's moving into a favorable environment shear-wise.
The upper air winds are pretty, still pretty strong off the southeast coast. I would think it would argue. I think it argues against it, and also the fact that there just doesn't seem to be enough time.
Tomorrow also.
If it was going to sit there for 3 or 4 days, I would say go ahead. I'm sorry, Joe. Go ahead.
Tomorrow's the launch of the SpaceX mission, the first one from American soil to the International Space Station, almost a decade. 4:33 is launch time, and the forecasters have actually improved the outlook for a launch tomorrow from 40% yesterday. They now say 60% for a possible launch. Still not the greatest, but scattered to broken clouds, 83 degrees, southeasterly wind, scattered showers, and maybe a localized thunderstorm. And I guess they're hoping that the thunderstorms and showers stay away and that it's going to be more scattered than broken when they attempt to launch tomorrow afternoon. Incidentally, there is no such thing as a launch window. When you're launching to the space station, it literally has to go right at the precise moment, 4:33 and 33 seconds. If they're even just a few seconds off, the mission has to be scrubbed for another time. In fact, I think they're going to hold off. If they don't go tomorrow, they're going to wait until the weekend on the assumption that things will be a lot clearer and drier down in the Florida Peninsula for a launch as opposed to tomorrow. So we'll see what happens.
I have the satellite up, by the way, of that stuff off the southeast coast. Joe, I mentioned, we talked about yesterday. I was just a little bit concerned that whatever came out of there was going to try and shoot northward with some clouds and maybe a few scattered showers here on Thursday. I had to at least mention the possibility away from the coast. I don't know if you did in your view.
Well, I for Thursday for locally our area, I just simply assumed that with the increasing dew points and also several of the models. One of the models, by the way, is used by amateur and professional astronomers. The RGM, the Canadian regional model, they have something called the Clear Sky Clock, which runs through 48 hours. And for that particular model, they're indicating that we're going to see quite a bit of cloud cover here. I guess, again, because of the increased humidity and higher level dew points. And it doesn't look like we're going to see much in the way of precipitation on Thursday, maybe a couple of spotty showers here and there. And I mentioned it. The dew points are expected to be maybe in the low and mid 60s on Thursday. That'll be the muggiest we have seen so far this season.
Yeah.
And then we'll wait for, I guess, Friday and the weekend with the cold front and upper system associated with it to come on by. And that'll be the catalyst for a more widespread shower threat for Friday and on into Saturday.
Bill, Javon Perry, who's up not too far from the Boston area, he said he says some meteorologists say that southern New England, some meteorologists keep saying that southern New England may be in line this year with the tropical storm threats, and he wants to know what your thoughts on increased East Coast activity this season versus what we've seen in recent years.
Well, everything that we talked about, we're talking about a more active hurricane season, but you can have more active seasons where storms stay out of our latitudes, be more of a Caribbean and Gulf year or be more of an offshore year. So because of that, the thing that we say each and every year is all it takes is one. Be prepared for the one. We don't know if that'll come here, but we prepare for it every year. We all have homeowners insurance in case of a fire or something in our house. We don't have a fire in our house every year. We have to be ready for it each and every year.
Scott Briller brings this up. Joe and I have both been meaning to bring this up with you. So May 9th is the latest that we've ever seen snow, or at least we thought, according to the stat book. Except that the stat book says May 29th, 1995, a trace of snow was reported in New York City. Now, even though that was hail from a thunderstorm, so can we explain this? This egregious error, by the way.
Well, it's not an egregious error. Hail goes into the climate record as frozen precipitation.
It
just
goes
like
in the
snow
snow
does.
box?
Yeah, and it drove me crazy because I spent hours right before the May 9th snow trying to figure out which events were snow and which were hail for each particular event. And actually, I think the record for LaGuardia looked pretty good. That one was about May 25th, I think.
Okay, but what happens what happens if we get hail in July or in August? Is somebody going to come along and say that if it happens in July, is it the latest we've ever seen it or the earliest we've ever seen it? Okay.
Well, that's not going to go down as snow because in later climate records, the actual precip type is, and we record that too. But when you go farther back in the at least what I could find, going to the to NCEI, which we used to call the NCDC, the National Climatic Data Center.
Right.
The older records don't specify it, and you just sort of have to trick it out from other weather conditions that are going on. See if there was a thunderstorm reported, figure that it's hail. If not, and the temperatures are cold enough, figure that it was snow or sleet. It's detective work. And unfortunately, the observational records, when you go really far back, for Central Park, they're good. For other sites, we have to do some detective work.
It looks like there's a discontinuity though, Bill, because when you look at the almanac and you see that T on May 29th, and you say, oh, they had snow that late in the season. But then when you look at the snow totals, the monthly snow totals for that particular year, and you go to May, it says 0. So they said, well, how is it possible that there's 0 on one and a T on the other? And that's what's confusing. And Lonnie Quinn on Channel 2 was the one who, I guess, opened the can of worms, so to speak. He had actually gone on the air with a box and said, would you believe the latest that it's ever snowed at Central Park was May 29th? I forget what the year was. And I saw that and I said, Lonnie, how could you say May 29th? How could
Lonnie
go to the almanac page? I was going to say, look at the almanac page, Lonnie. And I didn't look at the almanac. I was like, what?
Lonnie has an open invite to come on this show at any time. So
I got to get back to Lonnie.
Yeah,
Lonnie says he'd be happy to come on.
Oh. Well, I know a certain enterprising meteorologist of this trio here emailed me about that, and I did the
Yes.
snooping to figure out what was what. But yeah, it's a little bit as you go farther back in time, before ASOS, basically, before we had the automated systems. If you don't have it recorded truly as hail in the climate, in the daily observation, it's detective work. And as I said, the Central Park, I think the latest was May 9th, but actually there was a cold frontal passage that happened, I think, May 25th. It was just maybe 1967, where both LaGuardia and Bridgeport did record a trace of something frozen right before midnight. So I'm assuming that it was dropping into the 30s.
And of course, people point out, LaGuardia is officially in New York City. It's in the 5 boroughs. It's in Queens as opposed to Central Park in Manhattan. And whereas everybody always says, for example, the hottest temperature ever recorded in New York City was 106 in 1936, I believe, July the 9th. And yet LaGuardia on July the 3rd or 4th in 1966 had 107. So you say to yourself, well, who's right, or what stands as officially New York City? A lot of confusion in a big city with 5 boroughs and 5 separate locations and observations being taken by cooperative observers as to what is the absolute in terms of temperature and precipitation.
We could always just all use West Hampton as the standard. Minus 18.
Only 20 degrees colder at night.
Oh, easy.
Incidentally, that temperature I mentioned, the hottest temperature, the 106 at Central Park, July the 9th, 1936, something very interesting happened that day. The Triborough Bridge opened. And in fact, the first person to drive over the Triborough Bridge was Franklin Roosevelt. And I know his car was not air conditioned. 106 degrees.
Tires melted.
The tires almost melted, yeah.
Chuck Cardillo he lives up in the Catskills. He's at 3,000 feet. So I mean, he was still shoveling snow as late as a week or two ago. But he asked the question of any linkage between active hurricane seasons and severe winters in the Northeast that would possibly follow. My recollection in my increasingly feeble brain would say that there really is no correlation. That you could find winters where they were active after active hurricane seasons, and you could probably find winters that weren't.
Yeah, probably. The one interesting thing that really pops out when you look at hurricanes that have made direct landfall here on Long Island is that almost when you go back, almost every one of them happened in a situation where we were transitioning from a negative to a positive phase of the North Atlantic oscillation. That really jumped out when I looked at that last year. That's why you can have an active hurricane season, but you need the upper pattern across the North America and into the North Atlantic to be right too, to thread the needle.
Right, and of course we just went through an entire winter where the NAO was not only non-existent, but we had record positive NAO. And of course, it went deeply negative in late April and May, which makes which just rubs salt into the wound for winter weather lovers.
I forgot what it was, but it was a couple of weeks ago, I think, that they were talking about the year so far, and they brought up global warming and climate change or whatever, and they started showing the icebergs calving, and the warming up of the day. And I started screaming at the TV because, as the three of us know, and we the people who watch know, because of the fact that we had that record, the polar vortex was literally locked in over the polar regions, everywhere north of the Arctic Circle. That's where all the cold air was, and it was for the first time in 2 decades. It was the coldest winter in Alaska, and there was sea ice that was above normal, not below normal for a change, because again of all that cold air being bottled up. And I said, why are you just arbitrarily saying that everything is melting up there when truly this was the one winter standout in recent years where it was cold and it was more like a normal like the good old days. You know, the polar bears I know are the poster children of global warming, but this was probably the first time in 20 years the polar bears were reveling in this
Yeah.
bit of cold weather that they had up there.
Oh, they needed cold and frozen up there because they hunt seal.
Right.
Did you ever hunt bear?
No. So the bears right now, the black bears and the grizzlies are all over the tri-state area now. Even here where I live in Putnam County, it's we're getting reports of a bear sighting every once in a while. They're all over the place now. Now the
Yeah. Well,
COVID-19,
they basically leave you alone. They're more
Well,
afraid of you than you are of them.
basically, but they get angry when they can't figure out how to open up the top of the garbage can.
Right.
Though.
Also, don't if you see a female with cubs, I'd stay. I think you got to stay away.
Yes.
Winter is finally over for Ruthless Goat. We have one of our regulars, Ruthless Goat, as he calls himself. He's in Loveland, Colorado. So it was a bonanza year for him. 90.5 inches of snow, and Boulder, which is not too far from where he is, 152 for the
wow,
season.
and they got started early, as you remember. It seems like every time we get an early start somewhere in the western U.S., we end up getting some early snow here in the east too. That's I think that happened last year. Did it happen this year too? Not for all the snow that we had
Didn't
this
we
year.
have snow in early September last year, this past fall, or
September.
some ridiculously early?
Well, late September. You mean up in the Rockies, in the northern Rockies?
No, I'm not talking about here. No.
Right. Up in. I think there was it was either last year or was it this past September or the year before? Late September, very early blizzard, relatively early blizzard for parts of Wyoming and Montana. I'm trying to recall whether it was this past September or if it was a year ago September, which would be 2 years coming up from this September.
Right.
Look, the bottom line is if the pattern ain't right, the pattern ain't right. In the last 2 years, the pattern has been god awful. So we are, we'll come back to this, this winter weather discussion come October, when it'll be more relevant. Hey, Bill, did you see the Hurricane Center's forecast for the season yet, or no? They did come out with one, didn't they?
Yeah, NOAA they had one. It was calling for an above normal season,
And
so pretty much in line with everybody else.
And a slew of majors.
Yeah. I guess they're probably banking on those. With La Nina, I guess the relative shear is going to be weak, and you're going to have you already have a warm Atlantic, so I guess they're figuring that's not going anywhere. So you at least have those parts of the puzzle. I guess the one thing that I haven't looked at was whether we've been able to tell in recent years whether it was going to be like more of a subtropics or homebrew type season versus a deep tropic season. I have to say I didn't delve into that yet.
You don't have to give away any secrets yet, but being that this is front and center news wise, and of course, it's 24/7 coronavirus, and it has been for months now. But we're now coming into a time frame where we're going into hurricane season, and I'm just wondering whether what's running through the head of the Weather Service when it comes to now you're going to be dealing with potentially putting up hurricane warnings. I mean, we're coming out of this lockdown, but how's this going to impact if we're still doing the social distancing thing with regards to warnings and evacuations and all the minutia that you deal with when you have a serious tropical storm or hurricane threat?
Well, that gets tricky. I mean, if you're in an area that's going to experience significant storm surge, you better get out of there. That's and I think in a case like that, probably have to err. You got to err on the of caution that's gonna save the most lives and livelihoods, and
Well,
if that means evacuating everyone and they're they're socially together, I would think the potential lives saved in a situation like that could be much greater than
here's
than
here's
I,
what I'm here's what
is
I'm kind of running through my head, and you tell me, what you think. Um, One of the things that we've seen just so pervasive over the last couple of months is just, and I'm not trying to be political here at all, but the amount of disinformation coming from every direction is astounding. Okay. And of course, everything is wrapped up into some sort of grand conspiracy theory. One of the things I say about conspiracy theories when it comes to the government, and I think I heard someone argue the point that if you can't get the government to effectively put together a 5-year-old's birthday party without having a problem, you think that they're able to just sort of construct this vast conspiracy involving whole nations and corporate the corporate world and everything else. What I'm getting at is, I'm wondering whether when we start to, we've been fighting our own little disinformation campaign when it comes to these, major hurricanes that are threatening. There's a whole group of people that just don't believe that they think it's all made up, that it's all being staged somehow. And I just wonder whether we're going to see it maybe magnified by a factor of 5 or 10, given everything that we've been going through lately. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that doesn't happen. But I think even among us that as trained meteorologists, we tend to look at the long range and we see these things that are viable threats to the coast. I think sometimes even we can end up communicating. We can go in the other direction and communicate things too early to too large a group of people, get too many people riled up. And last year I started doing this. I'm going to continue this year when Facebook posts or whatever to try to talk about things in broader terms and not get too specific, because it just and talk in terms of, okay, this thing's out there, it could impact a portion of the coast but can't say where. Guess what? Time to get your safety plan in place if you haven't done it already, doing those
Yeah,
terms. And
I sort of feel, listening to some of the medical professionals who were talking about, some of these the epidemiologists and the models and that they were using, and how the models were had changed as they put more data in, and it caused them to continuing to revise forecasts. And I kind of sat here, listening to all this and thinking, yeah, I get that.
yeah,
I understand.
exactly.
It's exact. I mean, we know exactly what that means. We've been dealing with that sort of stuff for years, forever, and
Exactly.
so we get it. And I've always emphasized the fact, at least to my audience, that our audience, that and they understand this, but the fluidity. I mean, what we have is, this is a perfect example of something that is incredibly fluid. And the
Mhm.
more data you put into it, although I could argue that the more data you put into these weather models, the worse they seem to be. But
Sometimes.
in theory, you would think if the better data, more good data you put into it, you should have better outcomes. But we certainly can sympathize with the mindset with regards to having to deal with forecast weather models.
Here's a very important
Oh yeah,
tool.
in so many aspects.
I was just going to say, here's a very important tool that came about at the end of the most recent hurricane season. I'm holding it in my hand right now for tracking hurricanes.
Oh, you're being mean.
Yeah, well,
You're being mean.
It's a black Sharpie. It's not a red one. We're still good here.
All right, so look, let's wrap this up with a little bit of fun. We do uh, what we call Briller Jeopardy after Scott Briller, who's a regular here. I call him the chairman, and he feeds us trivia questions, trivia type Jeopardy questions that we use at the end of the show.
Oh
And
boy.
Joe, so hang out, Joe. You've got some tonight, right?
yes, I do.
So Rayo's got some. So let's see how good you are, because I think the category is Academy Awards.
Who goes first?
No, just well, roll the question, and we'll see if we can come up with Bill and I can come up with the answer.
All right. Well, the category again is Academy Awards, and the question is: there have been 2 actors and 2 actresses who have won back-to-back Best Actor / Actresses awards. Can you name them? I know this has nothing to do with weather, Bill, but it's our little fun at the end of each show.
Back-to-back Best Actor.
2 actors, and 2 actresses who have won back-to-back Best Actor or Best Actresses awards. Can you name them?
Oh boy.
Okay, I'm gonna say. On that one. I want to say Louise Rainier.
Oh my God!
Right for
Is there anything you don't know, Joe?
The Good Earth.
Right.
And I don't remember the movie that she did the year before. So that I believe would be 1937 and 1938.
You're blowing my mind. The fact that you even know the years. I was supposed to give you the years as a hint.
Okay.
You're right.
Now the actor, I'm running through my head with regards to the actor. Okay. So I'm gonna need a hint.
Okay. Well, first off, to the Louise Rainier was in The Good Earth in 1937, and 1936, the movie you did not get or were unable to get, The Great Ziegfeld.
The Great Ziegfeld. Okay, right.
How about the other actors?
What, the other actress or actor?
Right, there were 2 actors and 2 actresses.
Oh, 2 actors and 2 actresses.
Right.
Okay. So now the other actress. You know,
I'll give you the years.
I know Hilary Swank won 2 Academy Awards, 2 Best Actress Oscars. I don't know that she won them I don't think she won them in back-to-back years.
No.
So it's not her.
I'll give you the years, 1967 and 1968.
Oh, Katharine Hepburn.
Correct.
Katharine Hepburn for The Lion in Winter, which is one of my favorite movies, and for Guess Who's Coming to Dinner.
Right.
Okay.
And now who are the 2 actors who won back to back?
All right, the actors now. Oh God.
I'll give you a hint.
Go ahead.
You just mentioned one of the movies.
I did?
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. No, I'm wrong. He was in one of those 2 movies that Katharine Hepburn was in, but that's not what he won for an Academy Award. I'll give you the years. The years were 1937 and 38.
The Best Actor in 37 and 38. Oh my God. Oh, Jesus. Shit. 37 and 38. I'm trying to visualize 37 and 38. I guess if you gave me if you named the movie, I could probably guess the actor.
The 2 movies are.
Give me one movie.
Captain Courageous.
Captain's Courageous.
Captain.
That was Oh my God, I can't believe it. His face is right in front of me, and he's Katharine Hepburn's boy, Spencer Tracy.
Right.
So he won for Captain's Courageous, and then he won for. Did he win for Jekyll and Hyde?
1938. 1937 was Captain's Courageous. 1938, Boys Town.
Boys Town, yes. Boys Town. Now there's one more actor, correct?
Correct.
Oh God, I need a year.
1993 and 1994.
93 and 94, the same actor. Oh, what's his name from My Left Foot? No, it wasn't him.
No, it was not him.
Oh, Jesus.
I'll give you another hint.
Another hint.
It's one of the movies is the name of a very famous Northeast city. It's a stone's throw away to the southwest.
Schenectady.
All right.
I have no idea. I don't know. I'm
Tom
drawing a blank.
Hanks.
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks. Very good. I remember, it's a sign of senility here. I remember everything from 40 or 50 years ago. I can't remember anything from recent.
Forrest Gump, 1993, and Philadelphia, 1994.
Oh, right. Exactly. Yeah. So, okay, I'm trying to see. By the way, upstate New York today, it got into Rochester, Syracuse, Buffalo, upper 80s and low 90s. Caribou, upper 80s today.
I'm sure Tim Veltman, who's in the Albany area, knows that tomorrow in Albany it should be within a degree or two of 87. Then in Concord, New Hampshire, 90. And the expected high in Burlington, Vermont tomorrow, 93 degrees.
Wow.
Nice. Perfect setup for northern New England to get hot. They can keep it there. I don't want it. I'm enjoying this cool the cool onshore flow as long as it lasts.
Yeah,
I'm surprised. I'm happy we have sunshine with onshore flow. How many times do you have that happen?
True. By the way, you've replaced the Mr. Softy theme with the screaming hummingbird. Screaming mockingbird in the background.
Yeah, we have. Well, you're lucky we don't have the metal pecker, I call him, instead of woodpecker. He finds an attachment on somebody's roof and hammers away on it.
Sounds like a pileated woodpecker.
I think so.
Yeah. If you see an ivory-billed woodpecker, make sure to call the National Geographic and Audubon Society because they're practically extinct. So. Well,
Mr. Goodman, you are always welcome here. And,
thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Happy to have you on. We'll definitely have you on again whenever you'd like. Anytime you want to jump on, just message me ahead of time.
One question of both of you, Bill and Joe. Saturday, cold front supposedly coming through early in the day. I've seen forecasts that are saying showers in the morning and clearing in the afternoon.
Right.
My feeling is we ain't done with unsettled weather. I think we may actually see showers in the morning, a bit of sun, and then maybe we might finish out the day with a thunderstorm. What do you guys think?
Well, I thought there was a shot that the front would, the models love to bring fronts through here early in the day, and mid morning to noontime when you're in the long range, and in reality they don't come through until late afternoon and evening. I think that's not unreasonable. Unless she suddenly starts moving at 100 miles an hour and the thing goes flying offshore Saturday morning. But you got the upper trough swinging by. Is waiting for that second shortwave that's coming down and around. So I don't think that's unreasonable.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And how many fronts come through here in one piece anyway? You get the prefrontal trough, then you get a wind shift, then you get the dew point front to come through, then you get another wind shift, and then finally the temperatures cool off.
Right.
So so I think we're in line.
Yes. Okay.
All right. So let me just say really quick, thanks everybody for being here tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a last minute thing. I saw Bill was hanging around, so I shot him a quick message and brought him on. Especially on a day when there's not a whole lot of weather going on, we get to at least touch on some other subject matters that are relevant. And we're Joe and I are both happy that you were able to come on. Thank you.
Thanks for the invite. And the timing was great because I happened to look at all this stuff, regarding at least how the month of June might play out. So there was definitely subject matter.
Are you out there with the scotch?
No, I'm out here with a glass of red.
Oh, you guys! I just finished my Merlot.
Oh.
I ran it.
Yeah, had nice spaghetti dinner. So just finished that up. Came out on the porch.
As I like to call it, a Merlot. right next to the Cabernet Sauvignon. All right, guys, have a great night. Everybody watching tonight, thanks for being here, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good.